Hello and welcome to this candidate forum for Santa Clara City Council District 6. With this Zoom virtual candidate forum is sponsored today by the League of Women Voters of San Jose, Santa Clara, as well as the Greenbelt Alliance. And we welcome you all to this forum. My name is Gloria Chen-Hu, and I'll be serving as your moderator for today's forum. I'd like to say a little bit about the League of Women Voters and why and how we do these things. The League of Women Voters was founded over 100 years ago, largely from the women who were working in the suffragette movement, who realized that once the women had won the vote, they also wanted to make sure that all voters would have good information and were capable of making decisions at the poll. We are a nonpartisan, yet political organization for both men and women, and we are designed to encourage informed and active participation in government and in elections. It is very important for us to state, because it's an important piece of League, we never support or oppose any political party or candidates. And the League, in fact, has really sort of two distinct roles. One of them is, such as tonight's candidate forum, providing voters information and services that are purely objective and open-ended, open-minded, and does not have any partisanship. However, we do take positions on policies, and so therefore there is an action or advocacy component of the League of Women Voters, because we believe that there are certain policy areas that we need to put take a stand on. But tonight we are purely on the voter service education side, and I want to welcome you to the forum tonight. Again, as I said earlier, we are going to be meeting with the three candidates who are running for the Santa Clara City Council District 6, and I'm pleased to be introducing them. But before I do, I'd just like to make a couple of comments about the format. Most of you, when you registered, provided us with some questions, and those questions have been vetted by the League of Women Voters. It's important for us to vet those questions to make sure that they're fair and they're even-handed and that they apply to all of the candidates. Each candidate will have an opportunity at the very end for a closing statement. There will be no opening statements, and we're looking forward to having their responses. And we hope that this event will help you make a decision about who to vote for District 6. So without further ado, I'd like to now welcome our three candidates who are running and ask them to join us. We'll start in alphabetical order for District 6. Gary Barve. Gary, welcome. Anthony Becker. Mr. Becker, please join us. Welcome. And our third candidate is Robert Mezzetti. Mr. Mezzetti.
Good evening.
Thank you. What we do is our timekeeper, because she will keep us on track and ensure that each candidate has the same amount of time to respond to the questions. And for the most part, they are, as I said, 1-minute responses. So Mary Collins, a past president of the League, is serving as a timekeeper. Mary, if you will share with our audience and our candidates, yes, a 15-second warning, a 30-second, and most important, the evil red, I'm sorry. Thank you. Slight technical glitch. Thank you, Mary, very much for sharing those signs. Candidates, when you see the red stop sign, you do not have to stop mid-sentence. Complete your sentence or your thought, but close up as quickly as possible, if you would. Thank you. So without further ado, I'd like to start with the questions, and the variety of questions, but we'll start with one that gives us a chance to get to know who you are and a little bit about yourself. So we'll start with the very first general question, which is simply to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. That would be of interest to our voters, and also why it is you've chosen to run for City Council. We'll start with you, Mr. Babe. Mr. Barve. Gary.
Thank you, Gloria. So my name is Gary Barve. I am a Republican endorsed by the Republican Party, and I'm a youth supporter of President Donald J. Trump. I'm a computer engineer. I got my master's in business administration in entrepreneurial strategy from Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. And my career has been on the business front. I was working for a technology company in Santa Clara. I think technology is a great profession, but I sort of realized that technology is not necessarily my calling in life. I felt that community service is something that really energizes me and makes me passionate about my life. It makes my life worth living. And so that's the reason why I decided to have a big, bold vision for Santa Clara and do my best to try and realize that vision by running for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, same question. Tell us about yourself and why you're running for City Council.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here. So I was born here in 1985 at the old Kaiser Hospital. I grew up here in Santa Clara, went to Palmer Elementary. I moved away when I was 7 years old. And then I came back when I was 18 after I graduated high school and to basically go to school and pursue my career here. What I've been seeing is I basically jumped into the race in 2016 because I saw a divided council. I saw that policy wasn't going in the right direction. I realized that millennials had lack of representation, renters had lack of representation, and we needed better diversity on our council. And so that's why I decided to run in 2016. And then also I ran in 2018 for mayor as well, because I felt that it was a great way for the community to get to know who I am. Since then, I've been on the Santa Clara Planning Commission. I just served as chair this last year. I have the experience working with the neighbors, with the community on resolving quality of life issues. And seeing that what we were doing on Planning Commission and it wouldn't really echo on City Council, I decided it was time to run to actually replicate what the residents of District 6 actually want in the residents of Santa Clara.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Mr. Mezzetti, same question, please.
Good evening. I am a fourth generation Santa Claran. I'm half Italian, half Spanish. My Spanish side came from Spain around the Horn of South America to Kauai, where they worked off their steerage passage and then came to Santa Clara. They came to Santa Clara in 1911. These were my great grandparents. And I have owned property there ever since. I've lived in District 6 except for 10 years, all of my life. I'm 65 years old. I'm an attorney, I'm a litigator, I'm a businessman. I run several businesses in addition to my law practice, property management, trusts, and a mobile home park actually. And I think the experience that I have as a lawyer is important to add to the council because I have a different point of view than a layperson or somebody that's never run a business, and certainly somebody that's never litigated or negotiated contracts. The city's got a lot of those that are at issue now and more that will come. And I think it's time for me to give back to the city in which I've been born and raised.
Thank you, Mrs. Mezzetti. Now, all of you are running for District 6. In this question, I'd like you to describe what District 6 encompasses and any unique opportunities or issues that are confronting your District 6. So we'll start with you, with Mr. Becker, on that question, describing District 6 and what you feel are some unique issues, challenges, and opportunities for the district.
Sure, absolutely. I'll be as quick as I can on describing it. The district is a very unique shape. It looks like a sitting lion or a laying dog, whatever you want to call it. The district encompasses all the way from the Apple campus on the west side to Valley Fair on the east side. To the south side, you have the Stevens Creek corridor, which is the major border between San Jose and Santa Clara. As well as you have other parts that are like where Stan's Donut is in Central Park, by Central Park. That's where other parts of District 6 reach to as well. Major concerns for District 6 is the west side, especially near the Apple campus, was ignored a lot, especially when Levi's Stadium was built. Bigger other concerns are the Stevens Creek corridor, what's going to be developed along there, what's going to be developed by the bucket. At the same time, what are we going to do with the creating better relationships and collaborating with the city of San Jose and Cupertino rather than competition? So those are the biggest, I think, factors, as well as affordable housing being placed in these districts, because it is a lot of original houses, existing neighborhoods, which we do not want to disturb. But we got to find ways to also be harmonious to build for the future generations, especially in the north side too.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Mr. Mezzetti, same question, description of the district.
Yes, District 6 is the southernmost district, and it shares more borders with cities than any other. Stevens Creek Boulevard is certainly one of the concerns that I have for District 6, because I know the developments that San Jose has planned for the other side, the south side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, and they will have a major impact on life along Stevens Creek and the not only the businesses, but more importantly, the established neighborhoods that are all along our side of the city. San Jose is looking at developing the old Harry's High Life site, which used to be called Meridian Corners years ago. Also Meridian Quad, and also the Safeway complex that's at the intersection of Stevens Creek and Lawrence. Those are huge developments with tens of thousands of square feet of residential and retail. That's going to drastically affect what we do. And I think that the negotiations with San Jose needs somebody that has negotiated those types of contracts before and has fought for their clients. And
thank you.
I can do that. I'm not seeing the flag or anything.
Do you see it now?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Not missing the candidates, but I can see the flag. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Barve, your comments about your description of District 6 and its issues.
Thank you. Well, I think Mr. Becker and Mr. Mezzetti explained District 6 really well. I think the main residential areas in District 6 are Homestead, Forbes, Prune Ridge, and Saratoga. Stevens Creek Boulevard is obviously a commercial corridor. And then when it comes to major issues in District 6, I believe along with housing, I think economy is a major concern, not just for District 6, but for the entire Santa Clara city. We are facing a $34 million budget deficit for the next 4 years in Santa Clara. And I think that is a cause for huge concern. I think we should find ways to increase revenue for our city without increasing taxes. There are definite ways to achieve this. And I would love to elaborate on it on a future question. I don't know how much time I have on this one. I have 15 seconds. So there are definite ways of increasing revenues without increasing taxes. And I'll elaborate on that on a future question. But I think economy is a major concern for all Santa Clarans as well as District 6. Thank you.
Well, you seem to have given an introduction to the next question, really. With COVID-19 and the impact it's had, and even before COVID-19, there have been really a look at our budgets, not only for the city, but statewide. And we know that we are seeing some drastic reductions up ahead. So would you tell us a little bit about how you would decide which expenditures might be cut back or reduced to meet the shortfalls that has already been referred to? And we'll start with you, Mr. Mezzetti. How would you handle the budget shortfalls?
I believe that the city of Santa Clara is a well-run city. This council over the past several years has put together, excuse me, a reserve fund of over $80 million. Matter of fact, I think it's $120 million. And I think that those reserve funds are something that are set aside for disasters. I think this certainly qualifies. So I think that we need to dip into that fund so we don't have to raise taxes, so we don't have to put stress on businesses that are already stressed out. And put a financial burden on our citizens who are really struggling and having trouble. I believe in making it easier for restaurants and other small businesses to be able to cope with the COVID-19 problem by either reducing or postponing or deferring their utility bills and or some of the taxes that they owe, and certainly the permit process, make it easier for them to go ahead and be successful in their businesses. I also believe in the TOT tax that's going to be on the measure. So it'll be on the measure, and I think that'll help.
Thank you. Mr. Barve, the question to you, what would you do in terms of reducing expenses?
Yeah, I think that's a great, thank you, Gloria. I think that's a great question. I think I would, to be very honest, I would focus on increasing revenue without increasing taxes. But at the same time, I think there are ways by which you can reduce expenditures. I think number one, I would stop the pursuit of the CVRA lawsuit pursuit. That's going to save the city millions of dollars. I think that's a very important thing that can be done. Number two, I believe there are certain contracts that are being signed with certain parties that are probably not needed. I'll put it that way. They're probably not needed. They can probably not happen. And so we can save on revenue expenses by not signing these contracts. And then I think there are some members of the Santa Clara city employees who are paid higher than what you would normally expect for a position and for that particular position. And so I would look at that as well. But again, I would focus on increasing revenues. I think that is the primary way of getting us out of the budget deficit crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, what would be your thoughts on how you would recommend reducing expenditures to meet some of the shortfalls?
So both of my opponents covered a lot of the good issues so far, and I don't really want to rehash a lot of those same things, but I do agree that we do need to end the CVRA lawsuit. That is an expensive problem. I also would ordinance the 6 districts at the same time to stop wasting our taxpayers' money. Reducing deficits, I also feel that we should stop paying a bunch of spin doctors we have at the City Hall. I mean, we're spending a lot of money on pricey consultants. I also believe in renegotiating the city manager's salary because she's making $709,000 package, greater than any other city that I could list right now. I mean, Anaheim has a greater population than us and has 2 sports teams, a Disneyland, and so on and so on. I mean, that's more responsibility, but we're paying more here in Santa Clara with less responsibility. I also see opportunities to create like downtown Disney, work with to bring in that revenue, to make the economic development at the same time as working with Levi's Stadium to make money off of it. We need to work with, create like a film commission to start creating some more revenue. And lastly, as
I think we'll need to have you stop there, but actually I'm going to move on to the next question because in a way you've sort of introduced that.
May I have a short rebuttal?
Yes, Mr. Mezzetti, yes. And let me just explain to our audience that each of the candidates has 1 rebuttal to make. And Mr. Mezzetti, please, you have requested to use your 30-second rebuttal. Go ahead.
Thank you. The CVR lawsuit appeal actually is already in front of the appellate court. The briefs have been done. My understanding that the oral argument has been done and they're just waiting for a decision. If the city pulls that case now and dismisses it and dismisses that appeal, all the money's been spent. That allows the city, the other side, to go ahead and make a application for attorney's fees as the prevailing party, and it will cost the city millions of dollars in attorney's fees instead of now just waiting for the decision to see what's going to be made. Bad decision, sorry.
Thank you. Now moving back to the question that I was alluding to earlier, and that is the questions that we talked about reductions. The next question really has to do about revenues and how do you see ways that the city of Santa Clara can actually offset some of its declines by increasing revenues? And what would you suggest would be the way to do that? And we'll start with you, Mr. Becker.
So yeah, so continuing what I was just saying about we need to help more small businesses. I think what we've been doing with the grants has been tremendous. I think we need to step that up a little bit more. Like I said, we need to work with Levi's Stadium. We need to start getting some revenue off of that because the biggest complaint I hear about the stadium is we're not making any money off of it. And as a taxpayer, and I think a lot of us are taxpayers here in Santa Clara, that concerns a lot of people. I believe that Measure E is a major issue that we need to work for. It's supported by Mayor Gilmore, Karen Hardy, and Raj Tahal. We need the money to support. I think that it's essential, especially right now. At the same time, we need to focus on, like I said, kind of a downtown Disney to bring in economic development in our entertainment district that will work with the related project as well. And then also, as much of it, there's a stigma on it. There's the cannabis tax, and we should remove the moratorium to make some money off that cannabis tax. It doesn't even need to be dispensaries. It could be just by square footage of a manufacturing, if that's what it is, because we do need the money, and that's $5 to $10 million we can make off of that.
Thank you. Mr. Barve, your ideas for increasing revenue, what would be some activities you would support?
Thank you, Gloria. So number 1, I think we need to remove the 10 p.m. curfew at the 49ers Levi's Stadium. I think we need to remove that curfew. Each concert generates approximately $500,000 to the general fund. And so we need to make sure that we have these concerts in this time of $34 million budget deficit. That would be an incredible revenue stream for our city. Number 2, we need to make sure that we have a big thriving downtown. We need to build vertically in this downtown because apartments rent is extremely high. And so by the demand and supply principle, we would be able to solve the apartment rent housing crisis as well. And it would be a tremendous revenue generator for our city, more from a long-term vision perspective. Number 3, we need to support our small businesses. We need to support our restaurants. We need to look at each specific small business industry independently and make sure that we find solutions such as converting some of the parking spaces into restaurant customer tables. And then I'm also in support of the removing the cannabis moratorium. I've never smoked marijuana in my life, but I think it's a great tax revenue generator for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, your ideas or thoughts of what you would support in terms of increasing some revenue for the city?
First off, the 10 p.m. curfew is something that can't easily be changed. It's part of the development agreement that was signed by all parties years ago, and that cannot be simply changed. You would have to get public input, a public hearing, and then the vote of the council and agreement of the developer, by the way. Not easily done, and if we did eliminate that 10 p.m. curfew, then it would be at the expense of the homeowners and the families that live in that area. I started to talk about the hotel tax, which I think is something that's coming up on the ballot, and I think that would be helpful in increasing our revenues. There's a federal grant program where we're looking to get about $34 million. I feel strongly that we should not cut services, essential services like police and fire. I think that those are important. I'm an optimist. I believe that C-19 and the problems are going to be over soon, next year sometime, I hope. And then I think the economy is going to take off like a bullet, and I think we're all going to be fine.
Thank you. The next question takes us sort of into another different area, and that is an area that a lot of people have many concerns about, and that is our whole area of housing. Santa Clara has, as compared to San Jose where I live, a very positive jobs to housing ratio. The concern though is how do you improve the housing? How do you improve what should the city do to improve the jobs to housing ratio? We'll start with you, Mr. Mezzetti.
I believe that affordable housing is something that is necessary, but at its present stage, I think it's a joke. It's not affordable at all. We should stop kidding ourselves about that. And that's not the part, that's not Santa Clara. They can't do anything about it. I think the state of California have to step in and make that change. But as far as Santa Clara goes, we can hold the developers' feet to the fire to make sure that affordable housing is a greater percentage than is even on the books. I think they have the ability to do that. I think they just need a little bit of a push. And there's all sorts of developments, including downtown, which hopefully we're going to see one of these years. But the related area is going to have affordable housing and the other stuff on the north side that developments can go in. I think that's very important for all of us to make sure that our children and our essential services people and our even our restaurant workers and hairstylists and everybody else is able to live in this city.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, your thoughts on how to improve the jobs to housing ratio?
Yeah, so we have a 2.1 to jobs to housing ratio. We need housing really, really bad. We have plenty of jobs. In San Jose, it's kind of the reverse. I think it's a really good opportunity right now. And I think the reason I say that is because I have that experience of getting that affordable housing with developments just recently with the gateway crossings of pretty much every development. I actually twist the arm of all the developers to provide that affordable housing because as a person, as a renter myself, I make under $60,000 a year. I'm pretty much considered low income. I'm feeling like I'm being left out. There's seniors that are on fixed incomes too, that are on Social Security, and they're being left out and they can't afford to live in these pricey apartments, and there needs to be that senior housing. So I have that experience working with the developers to get that affordable housing. There needs to be better ways of getting it in certain places, especially in North Side and areas near public transit or transit-oriented village, so to speak. But like I said, going back to the experience of working with the developers in delivering that affordable housing, most recently I got the Freebird project, which is on the corner of Monroe and San Tomas, which is great for people who make under 90K a year, which is like Mezzetti said.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. The same question to you, Mr. Barve. What would you do in terms of improving the jobs to housing ratio?
Yeah, I agree. I think the jobs to housing ratio is, depending on how you look at it, it's about 2.4, 2.5. So I agree there is a housing crisis. So I'm in support of building high density in Franklin Square downtown. I think the apartments that are built along the golf course are also a very good idea. I think it's a very good idea because it will help Santa Clarans by the demand and supply principle. It will help reduce apartment housing price, apartment cost. I think that's a very good advantage to Santa Clarans. And I want to tackle this issue of affordable housing. So look, I will support whatever affordable housing law states, 15%, 10%, I will support that. But someone has to make up for the difference, right? So if someone gives subsidized housing, let's say it's $100,000 that comes down to say $50,000, taking numbers, then that $50,000, somebody has to write the check. So it's either the business that writes the check, or it's the remaining 85% of the people who are purchasing the apartments that will make up for the difference. So that's my stance on affordable housing. But yes, it is very expensive. Rent is very expensive.
Let me now bring in another issue, and that is sort of at the very far end. You talked about affordable housing, but there's the bigger increasing numbers who are actually finding themselves homeless. And we're finding them on the streets and everywhere. So the question is, what actions should the city take to deal with homelessness in Santa Clara? And we'll start with you, Mr. Becker.
So first, I think we really need to work with the county. This needs to be more of a regional effort. The city of Santa Clara can't just do this by themselves. When we talk about homeless, a lot of people think it's the people that are screaming crazy things around the streets. It's a mental health issue. It's not only just people that are doing that out in the streets. It's people that are actually working, people that are usually working 2 jobs. I know a couple of my coworkers, they actually live in a motorhome on the street while they work down here during the week, and then they can go back home to the Central Valley near Yosemite on the weekends. And that's no way to have a great quality of life. We need to provide, like we were talking about before, affordable housing. We need to provide better opportunities. Like right now, the minimum wage, I think it could be raised a little bit more, especially for people in this area, because the price of housing is just getting outrageous and people can't afford it. Myself, I spend $950 a month for a room in a house. And it's basically all of us are one root canal away from being bankrupt, a lot of us around here. And so I think I have the experience to actually work with other cities to get housing for homeless.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Mr. Barve, your thoughts on homelessness and solutions?
Yeah, I think homelessness is most definitely a major issue in our area, but I have a slightly different way. I think we should explore programs by which we can get homeless people to work. I understand there's a line of thought where people are working 2 jobs and are still homeless, and we can tackle that as well. But I think there are a lot of homeless people who are currently without jobs. And I think it is very important that we don't write them a blank check. I think it's very important to make sure that we get people to work again and earn a living. I think that does benefit to them from a self-confidence perspective as well. It brings respectability. And I think that has a tremendous emotional positive impact. And when it comes to people who are suffering from depression-related illness, I have personally been suffering from depression-related illness in my past. And I would definitely see what we can do to help these people, again, get back up on their feet again, work, and have a meaningful, respectable life.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, same question.
The homeless problem is way too complicated to be solved in a forum certainly like this, and certainly not in 1 minute. I think it's education is the key, and people have to understand and have compassion for these people that are on the streets, and many of them do have mental health issues. I deal with a lot of them. I work in San Jose and downtown, and there's a lot of people that are very, very disturbed. The other day, in the middle of one of those terrible heat waves that we had, I was trying to leave my parking lot, and there was an older gentleman there, and he had a baby stroller and an umbrella, and he was dropping stuff off of there because he had too much stuff on it, and he was yelling and screaming and swearing. And I got out of the car and I went over and I said, can I help you? Would you like a couple of bottles of water? And he started crying. And he said, God bless you. He went from in total rage to crying and humble and thanking me. Those are the type of people that are out there, not easy to deal with. I don't know what the solution is.
Thank you. I realize that the 1 minute doesn't allow any of you to solve it. We were just getting some responses. And I think that that's what the voter wants to know. How do you feel about this general topic? So that's, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
No, not at all. I think this is exactly, we wanted to get kind of your immediate reactions. So thank you, all of you, for tackling that even in just a minute. Okay, we'll go for a what we call our lightning round, really quick questions. And this will be 10-second response, yes, no, maybe a quick answer in terms of why. And the first question is, do you support Santa Clara Measure E, which allows the City Council to increase the hotel tax? Mr. Barve?
No, I do not support it. I might be the only person who is not supporting it. We can't just raise taxes. That can't be our answer to everything. There are ways to increase revenue without increasing taxes. It's extremely wrong for our businesses. It doesn't give them the competitive advantage that they should get. And so I'm against the 4% increase in TOT.
Great, thank you. 10 seconds response. Mr. Becker, do you support Santa Clara Measure E to increase the hotel tax?
Yes, I do, because we need the money right now, and I'm proud to support it with Mayor Gilmore, Council Members Chahal and Hardy.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, your thoughts on Santa Clara Measure E?
I support Measure E as well. We have a lower hotel tax than anybody in the area, and I think it can be raised. It's not paid for by the local businesses. It's paid for by the people that come here and use our services, so it doesn't affect local businesses, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. A lot of people have concerns about the environment, climate change, and the impact it has on our lives, short-term, long-term, wildfires. We've seen a lot of impacts of climate change. So the question to all of you is, what actions should or what are your thoughts in terms of increasing the capability of Santa Clara, the city, to be more sustainable, to be able to respond with the greater focus on climate resilience, to take us through what could be some very terrible times ahead. Fortunately, we haven't had the impact of the wildfires in this area, but still there's concern that we should be more climate change ready, I guess. So why don't we start with you, Mr. Barve?
Yeah, so here's my answer to here's my statement, I guess, to the question. I support clean air, I support clean water, but I'm not in favor of stopping the energy industries such as the coal industry and the oil and gas industry. I think we have some great American patriots working in these industries who work extremely difficult jobs and extremely hard to earn a living, and we cannot just stop those industries. And so that's sort of my stance on the issue. Again, about the wildfires, it's extremely unfortunate, and I think our firefighters are doing a great job. But that's sort of my statement on the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, your thoughts on ideas for increasing climate resilience of Santa Clara?
Well, let's be clear. This human race is a cancer on this planet, and left unchecked, we will destroy it. And I'm a firm believer in that. The climate change and the global warming has been coming for years, and we've been very slow on the uptake to do anything about it. And I'm not sure that we can do anything about it, but I think we can certainly help and slow it down. If you remember at the beginning of COVID, when everybody was staying home, how clean the air was. I mean, when you did go out and look, you could see the mountains. It was a dramatic difference. So I don't know if Santa Clara can do anything about this on a very small local level, but certainly I believe in electric transportation, electric cars, bicycles. E-bikes are a great solution right now. A couple of my kids and my nephew, my godson, has got e-bikes, and they go back and forth to work with them all the time instead of taking their cars. And if there's anything the city of Santa Clara can do to promote that, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, your thoughts on increasing the climate resilience of the city?
Sure, yeah. So recently at one of our planning commission meetings, we made the recommendation for the climate action plan to actually go above what the state standards were. We believe that as City of Santa Clara, we are the center of what's possible. So we can do a lot more for our residents in being conservation and also being green and fighting climate change. I'm actually the only candidate that was actually endorsed by the conservation voters and also the Sierra Club. because I'm going to champion those values that I continue to, I always champion on the Planning Commission, including getting EV charging spots at grocery stores and also pre-wiring inside of homes and new development. I see a lot of opportunities for us to do this. There's a lot of other ways to create better energy. And I think as a council member, having that opportunity work with the community as well as those from the conservation voters and also my community, I think we're going to come up with some good ideas and good solutions for green energy.
Thank you. This is a related question, but a more specific question, and share your thoughts and your attitudes toward this. Please explain your priorities for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in Santa Clara. How would you?
Like I said, I think that whatever we can do to help promote electric cars and other electric vehicles solves a lot of that problem. Maybe we can make a deal with the car industry up in a lot of car dealers up and down Stevens Creek Boulevard. Maybe something we can do to give them a incentive to do that. And certainly the e-bikes are extremely popular now, so we could make our streets a bit safer for them to be operated. That reduces parking, that reduces emission, eliminates gasoline. I think that's a great solution to this.
Thank you. Mr. Barve?
Thank you. So I think I'm just going to repeat the same sentiment that I had in the previous question. I support clean air, I support clean water, and I don't think we should just stop industries because of this issue about climate change. I think you have a lot of really hardworking, great people whose livelihoods depend on these industries, great American people whose livelihoods depend on these industries, and I am against stopping these industries, and so that's sort of my position on the issue. Thank you.
Switching gears to another whole area that has some concern that certainly has been in the highlight in the news quite lately this particular summer, and that is on the criminal justice. Oh, Mr. Becker, you would have your hand up, I presume, for a rebuttal.
Oh no, was I supposed to go on that question? I wasn't asked that one.
Oh, my apologies.
It's okay.
Moved on. Sometimes keeping track of who spoke, and so I'm thinking of the next question, Mr. Becker. I apologize. Your same question. So, what are your thoughts on reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Santa Clara?
Well, I think Mr. Mezzetti covered that also about the e-bikes. That's a really good idea. Also, I believe that we should remove the moratorium on scooters. That's another good thing. I really think that we should have a free electric shuttle. We should look at what's happening in Stanford. You got Marguerite. That is something we could really try to implement here in the city of Santa Clara. Work with also our companies. I believe and also in a trolley to connect people to the airport in our downtown. Also, I was been working from home since March. It's been so much better for my quality of life. And you know what? I've saved so much money on gas. And like Mr. Mezzetti said, the air has been so much cleaner when people were working at home. That's how we protect the environment, is we find ways to get people off the road. Also, fast as I can, work with existing neighborhoods to create more friendly urban villages. So a lot of people don't leave those urban villages to go out on the road. They're staying within their area to go shopping, work, play, and live in the same spot.
Thank you. Now, my apologies again. Changing subjects, there's a big issue about policing and the criminal justice system. And so the question and the concern is, what do you believe is the role of the city council in terms of the police oversight? I understand that in Santa Clara, the police chief is elected, but there is still some, community concern about how policing is done. So what would be the role of the city council in terms of police oversight? And so don't forget you. We'll start with you, Mr. Becker.
All right. So I think we have a pretty good police force here in the city of Santa Clara. Our officers are highly educated. We've had very little complaints. Our officers do have, have to have 2-year degrees to get on to be an officer. They also have to have higher degrees to be, I think, a sergeant or a lieutenant. Forgive me, I don't know the rankings really well. But I think when it comes down to defunding the police, I'm not in favor of fully defunding the police. I'm about moving certain money from the police aspect and like especially demilitarizing our police. I feel that we shouldn't be having tanks on the streets. Santa Clara doesn't deserve that. Santa Clara is a very safe community, and I think like I said, our officers are pretty well behaved. There are a few of those little pretty bad apples, but when it comes to it, I'm supporting the call to action, and I will work with Mayor Gilmore and Chief Nicolai to come up with better solutions. Also, we have the task force on diversity and inclusion, and I will expand it to, I think, 11 members will be more inclusive of all the voices that are in Santa Clara.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, your thoughts on the council role on policing?
I believe the task force that the mayor and the chief of police have been working on over the last 10 weeks or maybe 11 weeks now is an excellent idea. I saw the presentation that they both made, and I saw the people that are on the ground floor of the task force. I'm extremely impressed by them. And I think that's a good way to go. I know many of the officers in Santa Clara PD. I'm supported by the chief of police. I've been a graduate. I am a graduate of the Citizens Police Academy for the city of Santa Clara, and also I've been on a number of ride-alongs. I know how most of them operate, and I tell you, the integrity that I've found of the Santa Clara Police is tremendous. Their attitude is helpful, not hurtful. I'm sure, like in every industry, there's good and bad people, but I've experienced the good. If you compare that to an interaction, even on a car stop with the San Jose PD, it's a tremendous difference. And the people that come from San Jose and come to Santa Clara, those police officers need an attitude adjustment. It doesn't take long for them to assimilate to our way of thinking.
Thank you. Mr. Barve, your thoughts?
Thank you, Gloria. I agree. I think our police department does a great job. We are one of the safest cities in California. And so our police department does a great job. Some of the recent incidences have been horrific, but I genuinely believe that most police officers are great people who run towards danger to protect civilians and residents they do not even know. And I think that is bravery and courage of the highest magnitude. And I believe that we should defend and not defund our police. I spoke at a Back the Blue police event recently in Redwood City in support of defending and not defunding the police as well. So I think our police department does a great job and we should support. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now we'll do another quick 10-second yes/no answer in a lightning round. And the question is do you support Measure RR? That's a 3-county measure involving Santa Clara, San Mateo, and San Francisco, which will provide a sales tax to support Caltrain. So why don't we start with you, Mr. Mezzetti?
I'm not a big fan of local public transportation. I don't think that it works. Certainly doesn't work in the city of San Jose, but Caltrain I support. Caltrain is run efficiently. It's an excellent method, a way to get to other areas of the Bay Area, particularly San Francisco, and I certainly would support the Measure R.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Becker.
I support Measure RR because I believe in saving Caltrain, and we need to work on more extensions to Caltrain. Definitely love Caltrain and save Caltrain. Yes on RR.
Mr. Barve?
No, I'm not in support of a sales tax increase. I believe it's a sales tax increase of 1/8.
Yes.
And I'm not in favor of a sales tax increase. There are ways to run more efficiently, run the government more efficiently. I'm not in favor, no.
Okay. There are a couple of questions about pedestrian safety. Apparently there have been some recent fatalities and some concerns about cyclists as well as pedestrians being endangered on the streets in Santa Clara. So could you share your thoughts in terms of what you feel of the city's role to ensure safer and easier transportation for those people who are not in cars, those who drive, those who are walking, and at the same time, give us your position on the Zero plan to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries Mr. Barve, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Gloria. So I believe this is a very important issue. I think our goal should be zero fatalities and zero severe injuries. I think that is very important. Our resident safety is probably the most important thing. And so, look, I think there are ways to do this. We can have better bicycle lanes and we can have some other recommendations along those lines. But I'll admit, I'm not an expert at everything. One thing that I'm good at, I believe, is getting people around me who are experts in things that I'm not an expert in. And I believe I would be able to do that and come up with a very good solution on how we can make sure that we achieve the goal of zero fatalities and zero severe injuries. When it comes to the Vision Zero plan, I studied it and I think I would support, but it involves building data frameworks. And I would need to study that a little bit more in detail, but I'm agreeing with the endeavor, with the goal, zero fatalities and zero severe injuries. Absolutely on board with that.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
I support Vision Zero on the Planning Commission. We consider a lot of what bicyclists have to go through. The safety as bicyclists, we want to reduce the number of fatalities. I have Diane Harrison from the City of Santa Clara that often is whispering in my ear about that. At the same time, I also have Commissioner Sedge Jane, who's also a big bicyclist enthusiast, and he as well helps me work on great policy coming up with, especially for bikers and walkers. I think when we do this, we have to create better harmony with residents, bikers, and motorists. I think we have a little more transparency actually creating these meetings, because all I get is people telling me, stop reducing the lanes. No, we need to have more constructive meetings to talk about these issues so people have understand and better education on top of that. So like I said, I would have more town halls to discuss better issues for Vision Zero.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti.
I believe in educating the public about what causes some of these accidents. And I'll tell you, go out and drive around, whether you're on a bicycle or in a car, people do not pay attention, whether they're walking, whether they're on a bicycle, or whether they're in a car. They're on those damn cell phones. They got the earphones in their ear. They're listening to music. They're talking to somebody. That is no way to go through life when you're out in public. If you go to a grocery store and you're driving up, they come out of Safeway, they come out of Lucky's, and they walk right in front of you without even looking. It happens all the time. And on the other hand, the drivers are doing the same thing. They're on their phones. They're listening to the radio. They're doing the rest of it. It's all about paying attention to your surroundings and not being distracted by all those things. So I think it's education. I think it's enforcement. I have 6 grandchildren with 1 on the way. I take them bicycle riding all the time. And as we're riding along, I go, watch out for that driveway. Watch out for that parked car. Watch out for that person. Have them make sure that they're alert and understand what's going on in their surroundings. That's how you solve those problems.
Thank you. God, there are a bunch of more questions that have to do with questions about independent voice and transparency and communication, but we don't have time to get to it, unfortunately. So it's really about time in our agenda when I need to ask to start closing down and ask each of you for your closing statements. And this is a 90-second closing statement that you have to make your final points to the audience here. So we'll start with, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a quick question. I watched one of the previous debates, and I believe if the candidate does not use a rebuttal, then we can add those 30 seconds to the 90 seconds.
If you would like to, yes. You just have to let us know that you'll be doing that. And so the timer is able to do that. So you will ask for your extra 30 seconds. Mr. Mezzetti, I believe you've already used up your time on your rebuttal. Okay. Oh, there's my timer telling me it's time to go. To start the clip. Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Barve is going to take advantage of his extra 30 seconds. Mr. Becker, yes, no? You don't have to. And I think you're on mute, Mr. Becker.
I'll hold on to it just in case until the end.
Okay, well, this is the time to decide if you're going to use it, because I'm calling for the closing statements.
Okay, I'll use it with my closing statement.
Okay, All right. So, Mary, just so you know, there's 30 seconds addition for Mr. Becker and Mr. Barve. Okay. All right. Closing statements. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Becker?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone tonight. This race is about the heart and soul of Santa Clara. On one hand, you have the future, and on the other, you have the same reruns. My opponents offer nothing new. One is a registered lobbyist working for developers, and one is also doing business with the mayor. I find those to both be conflicts of interest. No offense. Both my opponents have never served on any commissions or boards. Compare me to the alternative. I have done more for the community by working for the community and solving residents' quality of life issues. I was born here in 1985 at Old Kaiser Hospital. I have grown up in this city, and I've been privileged to do so. I want others to share what I have been fortunate to have. I played in the parks. I went to Bullwinkle's, Great America, Moonlight, Lanes, the billiards on Stevens Creek. These pastimes are gone. Our city's character and identity is wilting. Our city is at a crossroads. We have one foot in the future and one foot in the past, and we are lost somewhere between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Our city has changed from the small town charm to the new steel, glass, and concrete canyons. Our city is in the big leagues now. Our city has major issues to plan for the future. I will deliver the affordable housing. I'm a renter, so I know the struggles. I will champion the new downtown that will serve all Santa Clarans. I will end the CVR lawsuit and reduce our deficits. I will bring AI solutions to our traffic issues, and I will bring equity to our communities. Times are tough, but it only makes us tougher. I rise up every morning to serve my community. I walk neighborhoods to meet every single one of you. At the end of the night, I am tired and worn, but I realize how much it is worth. I have strength and endurance to lead. As your council member, together we will build safer, stronger Santa Clara to believe in. I will always put the community first and the politics last, and establish posterity for the future descendants. I have not taken a dime from any corporations, developers, PACs, or the 49ers. I refuse to be in the pocket of anyone. I am only loyal to Santa Clarans. Your priorities are my priorities. I respectfully ask for your vote by November 3rd. For more about me, go to my website, www.becker2020.com, and I hope to see you out on the campaign trail. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to my opponents for being here too.
Thank you. Mr. Mezzetti, your closing comments, please.
I'd like to clear up the lobbyist issue very quickly. I am legal counsel for a developer on a piece of property that has a number of legal issues. I was registered as a lobbyist out of abundance of caution years ago at the recommendation of the city clerks, particularly after seeing what happened with Patty Mayhem when she represented somebody's legal counsel and didn't. With age comes experience, with experience comes knowledge. I'm 65 years old. I've lived in this district nearly my entire life, and certainly in the same neighborhood. My family's here, my children, my dad, and I know this district, and I know that I can represent this district and the city well. In terms of what I bring to the council, like I said before, I've represented developers, I have sued developers, I have litigated over transactional documents that are going to be at issue. I've drafted those types of documents, and I think that my experience in those fields would be immensely beneficial to the city council and the city as well. I also, through my years of experience as a litigator, know how to solve problems, know how to reach out to the other side, know how to make deals. And with the current actions that's going on with the 49ers and their efforts to spend $1.1 million to defeat me and some of the other candidates, I think that somebody on the council that knows how to deal with the 49ers is going to be important.
Thank you. Mr. Barve, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Gloria. So I would like to go in a different direction. I would like to share with you a personal challenge that I've overcome. I went through depression-related illness for many years in my life. I've seen the depth of despair and hopelessness. As your candidate for Santa Clara City Council, I want to be upfront about this truth about me. And I hope that the media covers what I'm about to say now. While I was depressed and under critical treatment, I might have taken some steps, sent messages to people, which I would never do under normal and current circumstances. There was never any malicious intent from me, and I was just suffering immensely from my illness at that time, and I was in distress. I am the most honest person with the highest moral standards, and my steps, messages taken under tremendous depression, distress might distort this reality. Let me be clear about this. I've done nothing wrong. and I'm putting everything on the line to fight for you, to fight for conservative Republican values, and to fight for all Santa Clarans. With this background, if I'm given an opportunity to represent you as your council member, I would like to work on depression illness awareness and try and remove the stigma that is associated with depression-related illness. By this, I mean I would like to do what I can to empower people suffering from depression-related illness so that they can lead respectable and meaningful lives and achieve their dreams in life, just the way I am doing by running for city council in beautiful Santa Clara, in the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank our three candidates both for being here and taking the time to spend to explain their positions on a number of diverse issues, and also for just being there to run for office. It's a big move and a lot of work on each of your behalfs. And what we need in government are a lot of people, a lot of participation. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for being with us tonight. And now I'd like to thank our audience, and especially like to thank our League member, Mary Collins, as well as a lot of people behind the scenes, Carol Watts and Judy O'Connor, and others who've helped out in terms of vetting the questions earlier and in making tonight possible. Also, we're going to remind you to be sure to get out there and vote. I'd like to now thank our candidates and move on to some information about elections.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the other candidates as well.
Thank you very much.
Everyone. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Anthony Becker. Thank you, Robert Mezzetti. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
Good evening.
League of Women Voters conducts things like the candidates forum, such as we've done tonight. We offer as well a number of informational packages such as the pros and cons, which will give you both sides of the issues on ballot measures. And of course, we do voter registration, voter education throughout the year. But one thing that we want to point out to you and urge you to take a look at is our Voters Edge website, votersedge.org. It's one-stop shopping. I also might want to notice in the chat box will be some links directly to Voters Edge and a couple of other resources that might be helpful to you as a voter. So do check that out. But Voters Edge, I want to spend a little bit more time on because it's one that you can get what we call one-stop shopping. You get a lot of facts that you can access very quickly before you vote. We have nonpartisan information on each of the candidates. We've asked them to give us more information. We hope all of them will have that. We also have information about each one of the state as well as local ballot measures that you'll be confronting on your ballot. We also have a great deal of information because we understand that money has a lot to do with the politics of today. So campaign financing information is available. In addition to that, you can access all of the positions and all of the measures and all the candidates you'll be voting on and get a copy of your personal ballot, at least the things that will be on your personal ballot, by going to votersedge.org. It's a nonprofit group. We work with a group called MapLight. It's something that the League of Women Voters statewide in California has been doing for over 20 years, and one that gets used considerably by a number of voters throughout the state. In fact, I think we had something like 2 million hits last election. Also want to just remind you all about some basic information facts. November 3 is election day. However, most of the ballots will be mailed to you. Starting this week, I've already gotten some material from the Secretary of State. There are 3 ways you can return your ballot. You can do it by mail. And if you do it by mail, we urge you to do it earlier, perhaps 10 days before. There will also be drop boxes throughout the county of Santa Clara. So even if you live in Santa Clara, but you happen to be doing some shopping in San Jose and there's a drop box there, feel free to drop it off there. Or there will be some 100 vote centers that will be open for the 4 days before election from October the 31st and 11/30. What's special about these vote centers is you can do everything there. It's like going to the register of voters. So if for some reason there's a problem with your ballot, go there, they can take care of it. They can print you a new ballot and they can answer any of your questions. And they also have ballots in multiple languages. These vote centers are run by the Santa Clara County Register of Voters. Go to their website, sccvote.org. It's a great site. You can track your ballot to make sure that it has been received, and you can check your registration, and it just has a wealth of information. Here in California, our Register of Voters, especially in our county, just does an amazing amount of things for us. So take advantage of this. Vote November 3. Vote before November 3 because ballots are coming out next week. Remember that democracy, as we like to say in the League, it is not a spectator sport. It really requires each one of us to participate. We welcome you to join us at the League of Women Voters at our website. Become a member. Men and women are encouraged, and young people 16 and older. But you know, this is a way to be involved and engaged in our civic duties as citizens in the United States, and particularly here in California. And for those of you in the city of Santa Clara, please vote November 3 and get your ballots in. Take care and have a very good night. We've enjoyed being with you, and we hope you will stay well and stay safe. Take care. Bye now.